We're going through some teams in the NFL debating whether they are contenders or pretenders.
That's my eagle screech.
Is that what that was?
Yeah, it was a pretend eagle screech because these guys are pretenders.
Are you serious?
I don't believe in their head coach at all. We've seen one of the best teams in football lose last year in the NFC Championship with a big lead. I don't trust Sirianni. It stinks to me.
So because of the coach, they're pretenders.
You know what? I like their football team. I'm out on Nick Sirianni.
No, they're contenders. I mean, with A.J. Brown, his team is almost unstoppable on offense. Everybody had question marks about their offense and defense. Everybody knows, and you know this, Kyle, with new coordinators coming in, there's an acclimation period. Guys got to gel together. Their defense has been one of the best, if not the best defenses in football the last 6 weeks. Their offense is being explosive again. Saquon Barkley, I mean, he's jumping over guys backwards. It's almost like Dragon Ball Z, right? Autonomous instinct or whatever they always
He's
call
a freak
it.
show.
Like for him to be able to backwards jump over somebody, like they are truly contenders when it comes to winning a Super Bowl.
You know what? I hope they are contenders because that means they get the rematch with Kansas City, and hopefully it's on a dry.
Kansas City there,
hopefully it's on a dry field, and they don't have something to complain about this time.
They're contenders.
That's all I heard.
They're contenders because of the defense. The defense this year is the amount of talent they've added the past two drafts. Jalen Carter, dominant on the interior. Nolan Smith making strides as an edge rusher. And then their draft this year, the two corners. Those guys are playing great. And every single week they're getting better. So with that being said, all that, they're a contender.
For sure.
I think I'm going to call all these guys pretenders.
Wait, who we got next?
Texans. Ooh, this one's a good one.
Right now, pretenders. Their offense is just all out of sorts right now.
Yes.
I don't know what's going on between the marriage of Bobby Slowick and CJ. I mean, their offensive line has been abysmal, pass protecting. And they've actually run the ball really well, and I love what Joe Mixon has
in the
done.
league, sack numbers.
But CJ Stroud is getting beat up front. So, like, their defense actually played pretty well. But right now, they're pretenders just because that was supposed to be the strong suit of this team going into the season. Another year with Bobby Slowick, they just have not found answers for pressure. And right now, it doesn't look like it's going to get any better. So right now, in regards to winning a Super Bowl, the Texans are pretenders.
Yeah, only Deshaun Watson sacked more.
That's
when
insane.
That's the case.
31, 32?
30 sacks.
30, okay.
When that's the case, I don't know how you win. When you're taking that many sacks, you're not winning.
Burrow almost did it one year.
Yeah.
And look, even when Jon Snow was in the Battle of the Bastards, did you watch Game of Thrones?
Of course I did.
Jon Snow standing in the middle of the field, just his swords, just him against everybody. That is essentially what we're looking at with C.J. Stroud, without Nico Collins, without Stephon Diggs, with the offensive line being an absolute liability. But you know what? The other night I saw it. C.J. Stroud, after a 3-and-out, he's looking up into the upper decks. He's starting to wonder, how the hell did I get in this situation? So the guy that I think you can set your watch to week in, week out, the doubt is starting to creep into his mind, which is why I believe these guys are pretenders. I still love C.J. Stroud, but you can only do so much.
So are the Lord of the Veils going to save him?
The Lord of the Veils. There is no Lord of the Veils. There is no Lord of the Veils. There was no prior arrangement. It's just you, buddy.
Next?
Swing that sword, CJ.
That's funny.
All right, we got next. Vikings.
Ooh.
I'll start. Is that a pretend Viking horn or a real
That might be a real one.
I'm going pretender. I think they're a pretender. I just don't trust Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold. You saw it even this past week. They won, but he threw 2 balls to the other team, just like dead center of
To
defender.
a line of defenders.
Yeah, just missing guys. That's just, you can do so much with this defense, and they've been great, but they are very much a Jekyll and Hyde defense because they do it a lot with scheme. And when you do it a lot with scheme and not necessarily having dominant players, you are susceptible to being out-schemed at times.
Yeah.
And when that's the case, and we've seen it this year, they'll get points in the score.
Or getting beaten by superior players like we saw with Denver and Baltimore. Like, no matter the scheme, you're still going to have to find a way to stop these dudes. And I think if they get into these matchups in the playoffs, they can be bullied around a little bit. They're going to have to play against, who's going to be the team that they're going to have to beat to make a run at this thing in the playoffs.
Detroit Lions?
Yeah. Well, that's what
I mean, even the Rams, they lost to the Rams.
Doesn't matter the scheme. Line up and let's play football, Johnnies and Joes. I'm not sure if they have enough of the Johnnies and Joes.
I'm with Mike, right? When you look at Sam Darnold, and people were saying everybody's waiting for that shoe to drop, right? It's kind of dropped the last couple of weeks. Like, inexcusable interception rolling out to his left, like a ball you can't throw in the red zone. Like, that's what Sam Darnold of old would have done. He's gotten away with a few throws, too, earlier in the year that should have been intercepted. And to your point, when you play the upper echelon teams, you can't have those throws and win football games. We saw it versus Detroit. That was a close game. The Rams game, we saw it right now when Rams were at full strength and they were able to run the ball with Kyron Williams. When they had Puka Nacua Nakua and they had Cooper Kupp on the outside. They were just outmatched. Even this last game for the Indianapolis Colts, I would say man for man, Minnesota has better talent, but they still almost let the Colts come back and win that game.
Colts are playing tough as hell.
Exactly. So it's just like, now the schedule does them a lot of favors, right? They have Jacksonville and Tennessee coming up, and then your Bears and Arizona in a 4-game stretch. So I think they'll make their way to the playoffs, but I don't think they're true contenders for a Super Bowl.
Bills. Team that we said.
Is Milano gonna get back?
That's the question.
You know what I'm saying? That's really it, because he gives you that X factor on the defensive side of the ball. The offense has been great. Josh Allen is as advertised. Amari Cooper into the fold. They're looking a lot more dangerous.
Is it sustainable? Though we were just talking about the Minnesota Vikings when it comes to talent. When you look at the offensive side, talent-wise, for the Bills, yes, Josh Allen has played out of his mind in regards to not turning the football over. Now, doesn't have the gaudy passing numbers we're accustomed to seeing him have, but as far as like just getting everybody involved, and they've really leaned on this offensive line in the run game with Cook out of the backfield. My thing is, if they get in the game, which again, maybe it is sustainable because they got in a game like that Sunday versus Miami, and they did just enough. The Jordan Poyer hit, was that a penalty or not? To be determined. They got the ball last and kicked the field goal. I mean, my guy, 61 yards, Tyler Bass.
It was good from 80.
Yeah. My thing is, when you play Kansas City coming up, is that sustainable? We saw versus the Ravens, they got smoked versus a team that had more
firepower,
better guys, better talent as well. So that'll be the question mark for them. Like when they play the better teams, is the way they're playing right now, with the lack of talent, sustainable? And again, it may be because Josh Allen is taking care of the football.
He tips the scales because he's so talented.
And that's the thing. And the thing is, what he can do off-platform is what keeps them in games. And for the life of me, I don't understand how anybody lets him get out of the pocket continuously, game after game, because nothing good happens when he gets out of the pocket. Good things happen for the Bills, but not for the other team. So I don't think they're true contenders to win the Super Bowl. I think they can make some noise, but when you talk about teams like the Ravens and the Chiefs, I don't think they're on par with them.
I think they're pretenders too. I think, and I'll say because their defense, I think it's a paper tiger. I think they've got better numbers than what they are because they've just played a lot of bad offenses. They played like the Titans. They played the Dolphins when Tua went down. They played the Jags, when they played
Jets early.
Yeah, the Jets early. So when you play the Ravens, when even just the Dolphins this past week back at full strength, they will give up points to better offenses, and I just don't think that's going to fly in the AFC playoff picture. Steelers. I'm going to have a different take, I think.
I mean, pretenders, right? Again, now I think what Mike Tomlin has done is ridiculous. Like every year we say this, is this going to be the first season the Steelers don't have a winning record with Mike Tomlin? And I booked it. I was like, this is going to be the year. Yeah. I love Mike Tomlin, but this is going to be the year. Anytime you have question marks at the quarterback position, and then the way the schedule was set up, I believe they don't play their first divisional game till 2 weeks from now, and then it's 8 straight, right? But then we look at this AFC North, and it's not as strong as we thought it would be now. The Bengals are starting to come on strong now. I thought the Browns would be a lot better, so I thought it was going to be a gauntlet for them to even win one divisional game. But the way Russell Wilson has played, Mike, you talked about their defense earlier. They have a legit defense. I mean, the Patrick Queen signing was amazing for them to not only make the Ravens weaker, but then get significantly better at a place that was so weak for them at the linebacker position. The Dante Jackson trade was amazing as well. I think he's really solidified that secondary in the back half, which was also a weak spot for them as well. I just think anytime you have Justin Fields in, then you bring in Russell Wilson. I don't think at the quarterback position I trust them enough to be true contenders to win a Super Bowl.
I don't think the moment will be ever too big for Russell. I mean, he's been to the top of the mountain a number of times. But to your point about the Steelers team, we went into the season thinking that the Steelers team would, at best case, be able to break that 500 mark and get Mike Tomlin to continue its streak. But that's the thing that's different about this team. They ain't. And it's not like a team that's going to be scratching and clawing to get to that mark. They're already doing well. They're at the top of the AFC North. This is a group that's built on the edges of the defense. And then, obviously, with Russell Wilson, you get that experience. The one thing that I just don't know if I can guarantee is that George Pickens is going to be what we've seen the last 2 weeks, week in, week out. And that's where I have concern about this team.
I think they're a contender. And I'll give you it's one big reason why. They have the best defensive line in the NFL. When you have the best defensive line in the NFL, and we've seen it in years past, you can go on a run in the playoffs, whether it was those Giants years,
Eagles,
the Broncos when they won. When you can rush the passer at an elite level, the Pittsburgh Steelers can. TJ Watt, Cam Hayward. Alex Highsmith, Nick Herbig,
Not Preston Smith.
Keanu Benton, Preston Smith. It's like when you have that at your disposal, everyone up front can win one-on-one and at a high level. Playoffs come around, like that's just you can go on a run with that sort of defensive line. So I think they're a contender. Commanders.
Ooh.
I would have said no before the Lattimore trade.
I'm about to say with the Lattimore trade, I think they are contenders.
I think they are now.
Yeah.
They're averaging the most yards per drive of any team since the year 2000.
I mean, Jaden Daniels, when a guy is that special, you have an opportunity. I mean, this dude is literally playing out there with messed up ribs, and you would never even know it. I mean, that fade throw on top of the DB's head for the Giants' Scary Terry, right, for the second touchdown connection was just utterly ridiculous. Like, even on a slant route, just putting it low and away where only Terry McLaurin can catch it and not get hit hard, right? Jaden Daniels is playing at another level. And we talked about this defense earlier. Like, their big question mark was at corner, and they answered that with Marshawn Lattimore, bringing him into the fold. So I think these guys truly are contenders, right? Not only for the NFC East, but to potentially make a run on the NFC side.
You bring in one guy that has won a Super Bowl into a room, and guys got ask him questions about how they did it and what it was like. You bring in two guys to a building that have won Super Bowls together, and it's starting to be a shift in culture. You put them in the same room, which I think is the most important room in the NFL, the offensive line room, with Andrew Wiley and Nick Allegretti. And some of those youngsters that are starting to come around for the Commanders. These guys know how to win. They're leading from the front. They have trust in their superstar quarterback. It's scary, but they are contenders. The Washington Commanders are contenders for the Super Bowl.
Yep.
Ooh. So this is the thing. You were just talking about the defensive line for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's the total opposite for the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, only, of course, the Dallas Cowboys can make them look like a really good defensive line. I mean, there was 2 plays in a row where they had sacks. They came into that game with only 6 sacks on the year. Right, so I think that's the big question mark. Like, Kirk Cousins is going to give you an opportunity. I really love how this offense has looked. Love that Zach Robinson is kind of literally leaned into the offensive line and their skill set. Because in the beginning of the year, they weren't using Tyler Algier. Like, I think people forget. This guy was 1,000-yard back before Bijan Robinson got there. He is literally the hammer, right? And Bijan, Robinson is that change of pace guy. And people were saying, well, Bijan could be that too. I think when you just want to bring that attitude, you put a guy like Tyler Algier in, and it changes the mentality.
Love it. When you see Algier come in the huddle, you're like,
oh yeah, we're getting 4 yards no matter what.
There's only 3 or 4 plays that could be called right here. And I like them all.
We're inside zone. He's going to get 4 yards no matter what. So I love that. Drake London is starting to come on. We've seen a Kyle Pitts sighting the last couple of weeks.
Mooney.
So I just think on defense, even though that's Raheem Morris's trademark, I think the defensive line, like I love what I've seen from Grady Jarrett. Matt Judon just hasn't worked out so far in regards to affecting the quarterback.
Yeah, I think the D-line's too bad to really roll through the NFC. I think they're pretenders.
Same.
All right.
Thanks.
Packers.
Is Jordan Love healthy?
Is Jordan Love reliable?
Should Malik Willis be starting?
Can we trust
Start
him?
last week.
He should have started because they're on a bye this week.
Yeah, so assuming he'll come back healthy, I think they're contenders. I don't feel as good about it as I did maybe like even going into this season.
Correct, yeah.
But I think the defense has taken steps forward in a number of ways. They have a lot of young contributors. I just think they're still like a year away. So I'm going to probably say pretenders at this point.
The Preston Smith thing was interesting right now. Remind me how we say out my man again, Inabry's played really well this year. So maybe that's why they did it for Preston Smith. So they have a few guys. But that defense, to Mike's point, wasn't playing up to the standard at first. Like we thought Jeff Hafley was going to come in. They were going to wreck shop. They have played better recently, right? Xavier McKinney has been steady Eddie in that back end as well. Edrin Cooper played really well the last couple of weeks. I'm going to say they're pretenders to win the Super Bowl right now. The consistency from Jordan Love and turning the football over is my concern.
They had their chance at the best at home in Packer weather.
They got dog walked.
And they got their asses kicked.
Just like they did in 2022 when Aaron Rodgers was there. They got dog walked at home with bad weather. People said Jared Goff couldn't play in inclement weather.
I know it wasn't a playoff game, but like when I saw Kansas City and Mahomes and Kelsey go off in Baltimore last year in the playoffs, I was like, you know what? You had your chance. Yeah. Like, that's your chance.
I will say, same thing happened last year. The first game against the Lions, they got blown out. I was there.
Come back,
It was the first half. The Packers had like 1 first down. The entire first half. Second game, they blew them out on Thanksgiving. So the Packers blew out the Lions on Thanksgiving. So I do think that was a little bit of an anomaly considering the weather, considering
I just
the groin
love
injury.
the turnovers and the injuries are a concern right now.
I do agree that they're just too inconsistent at this point to really buy in. Bucks.
Next.
All the injuries, pretenders right now.
But Liam
Not
Cohen
even a
is
debate.
for real.
Yeah.
We had conversations during that game on Monday night.
Liam Cohen
Liam
is
Cohen's going to be a
for
hot
real.
name in regards
Yes.
to being a head coach next year.
You like Chicago, Liam?
Ravens, duh.
1, 2,
Real.
3.
Contenders.
Yes, contenders.
My lord. I mean, it's the best offense.
Yeah.
Next.
Only question mark is the secondary.
Chargers.
Ooh. Now, they play a physical style of offense and defense that would make you believe they could be contenders.
They're cut out for playoff ball.
They are. That's what I'm saying. So, like, they can play in any weather. And the thing I think that's been so surprising, Mike, and you've probably seen this on film, is the uptick in passes in this offense. Like, Justin Herbert, they're, like, giving him the gambit now, which the first couple of weeks is like, no, this is 9 on 7. You know what you signed up for.
They were trying to establish their identity and their
Yeah.
culture. Sometimes these cultures and these identities, they take a long time to establish themselves. You did a great job covering how quickly the turnarounds have been for Jim Harbaugh
Oh, man,
coach
it's
teams.
been ridiculous.
And I think that more importantly than winning and losing is having a true culture. They are getting that in Los Angeles with the Chargers. And to your point, they ran it a lot at the beginning of the year, but let's make no mistake about it. Justin Herbert is a freak
legit,
show.
man.
He is a laser show
Jay
waiting to
Herbo.
happen. So make it happen. Mark Trestman, the guy I was talking about earlier, he's there in Los Angeles. He's a big part of that offense.
I think the thing that's holding them back, and we talked about this earlier, Mike, is the lack of talent on defense. Even though they've maximized it, like once they go up against some guys, that's going to be my question mark for them, right? Because they lost to the Chiefs earlier, and it was a close game. And this isn't the Chiefs' offense we're accustomed to seeing. I would love to see. I can't wait to see that second matchup because I feel like Patrick Mahomes and that offense is starting to gel now. We'll see what that defense is like when they play them the second time.
You talked about Denver being the name outside of Buffalo to worry about if you are a Kansas City Chief fan. Now, this was before the Ravens game. But I think the Chargers are, to your point, it's a division
It's
rival.
always tough.
They're not rolling a nobody out at quarterback. I mean, it's Mahomes versus Herbert. That is a matchup worth watching. And then you add to the fact that they've got those edge rushers for the Chargers and the tackle issues for Kansas City. Keep your eye on that one.
Yeah.
I think they're pretenders. I think it's the year before the year.
Yeah, for sure.
I think they just feel like they're not going to win the division, obviously. They're going to be a wild card. So they're going to have to be on the road the entire team, the entire playoffs if they get there.
They're built to
and
win.
at that point,
I mean,
they can run. But when they're behind, if they get behind, and again, their defense has been great, but hasn't really played some of the top offenses around the NFL. So they get behind the playoffs. What can they do? I think they just need one more piece at wide receiver and one more year for this offensive line to gel, and then I'm buying in.
Yeah, a little surprised they didn't try to make a move at the trade deadline. Now, again, they're always
Mike
cap
Williams.
strapped. Yeah, I thought getting Mike Williams back. But Quentin Johnson played really well this past week.
He learned how to use his hands.